Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the podcast. And today, I'm going to go over some news and rumors that have recently came out pertaining to the Lucha Bros and Miro. So let's start off with the Lucha Bros, man. It was pretty much discussed last night, all through Twitter, that, and for the past couple weeks, that the Lucha Bros, Penta, and Phoenix were going to be leaving AEW. Now, there really wasn't a whole lot of insight of really what was going on with Penta and Phoenix. Some people believe that they were going to stick out with AEW. Some people believe that Tony Khan was going to keep them around and adding time to their contract because of injuries and stuff like that, and kind of keep them sustained, if you will, in AEW. That doesn't seem like that's going to be the case. From the information that I have found out and the people that I talked to, it seems like Penta and Phoenix are on their way over to WWE. Now, what does this mean? This means that I know a lot of people are thinking they were going to NXT. From what I've heard, it looks like they're going right over to the main roster. It looks like they're also in talks with merchandise and stuff like that and everything else for Penta and Phoenix. So it looks like the Lucha Bros are going over to the main roster. My thought process on this, and obviously there's going to be people that are, the AEW elitists that are like saying Penta and Phoenix are a bunch of traitors and they're leaving AEW and going over to the dark side of WWE and everything else like that. Look, man, at the end of the day, when I look at the careers of Penta and Phoenix and what they've done in AEW, they had a hell of a career. Hell of a career in AEW. But at the same time, if you look at them as a tag team and the tag team division in AEW, man, the tag team division in AEW is abysmal at this point, man. The tag team division's on a humongous decline right now in AEW. And the Young Bucks are kind of taking over ownership of the tag team division. They're not really doing anything with it. I know they have a tag team title defense here soon with Ospreay and Fletcher, but again, that is a makeshift tag team for Ospreay and Fletcher. There's really nothing else left for Penta and Phoenix to do in AEW, man. I feel as if they've done everything they could have and accomplished everything they could have in AEW. And honestly, going over to WWE, I think it's a huge W, obviously, for WWE, and it's a huge W for the Lucha Bros, to be honest with you. I think it's, one of those things where you're going to have talent, whether it's in AEW or in WWE, that they're going to be flipping back and forth. Prime example, Kevin Owens. I know a lot of people are talking about Kevin Owens. His contract's coming up at the end of the year, and AEW seems like they're going to make a huge offer to Kevin Owens to bring him into AEW. Now, do I think Kevin Owens is going to leave and go over to AEW? I don't know. If I had to be a betting man, I'd be very surprised if he goes over to AEW. To be honest with you, just because the simple fact that he's been with WWE for so long, and I think with Kevin Owens, I think it comes down to obviously money and loyalty for what what the body of work that he's put in with WWE. And right now WWE is firing on all cylinders right now, where AEW is. I'm not going to sit here and say AEW is a dumpster fire, man, but I'm not going to sit here and say that AEW doesn't completely have their shit together, and they don't. So for Kevin Owens, I'd be very surprised if he goes over to AEW. But with the Lucha Bros, man, I think this is a great opportunity for both Penta and Phoenix, man. I mean, you could split them up and have a singles run for both Phoenix and Penta. Do I think they're going to do that off the rip? No. I think obviously they're going to be a tag team and a force to be reckoned with within a tag team division that, to be honest with you, is doing a hell of a lot better than what AEW's tag team division is actually doing. At least they have a division. But I know some people are going to be up in arms about this, and I get it. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of AEW elitists out there that are like, I can't believe they're leaving. Why are they leaving to go over to WWE? Are they going to get lost in the sauce with WWE? I genuinely don't think so. I have a lot of praise for Penta and Phoenix. I think they're a great tag team, a severely underrated tag team. And you got to look at the longevity of these guys' career, man. I think Penta's up there in age. I think he's, if I'm not mistaken, mid-30s. I think Phoenix is up there as well. And, they want to finish out their career in WWE. I mean, at the end of the day, WWE, but despite AEW and Impact and New Japan Pro Wrestling and stuff like that, I mean, WWE is, if you really look at the definition of pro wrestling, it's been WWE for the past 50 years or 50-odd some odd years. So, I can't necessarily blame them for doing that. I mean, there's nothing else left more for these guys to do in AEW. AEW right now, like I told you guys a minute ago, man, they have to get their shit together. And I can't stress that enough. I know they just signed a new TV deal for, I believe, 3 to 4 years for, I think it's $200 million a year. That's great. But at the end of the day, storylines are not happening in AEW. It's not storyline driven wrestling, and it's actually drawing away more fans than it's bringing in fans. But with that being said, I mean, with both AEW and WWE, you're going to have talent that's going to be going back and forth from either AEW to WWE or WWE to AEW, because there is that other option now with AEW being involved in wrestling, obviously, and being in the States, and it's a big deal for pro wrestling, which I think is a great deal for the men and women that wrestle for both WWE or AEW. There's options. You know what I mean? They're not just stuck with the giant of WWE. So I think it's great for business, and I think it's great for the talent. But, there's still a lot of free agents out there. Bobby Lashley and Shelton Benjamin and MVP are free agents. So, I mean, again, we don't know if they're going to go to TNA or AEW, but AEW right now needs to get their shit together. And I think, again, this is another definition of one of the AEW OGs, if you will, leaving the company. I mean, if you look at Cody Rhodes was the original OG of AEW, man. Him and the Young Bucks and Adam Page and Kenny Omega formed AEW with Tony Khan. And Cody Rhodes now over in WWE, and he's having a hell of a career for himself. You look at Jade Cargill. I'm not going to sit here and say that Jade was an OG, but she was in there for AEW for quite a while, and now she's over in WWE, and she's doing great things in the tag team division for the women, and she's the current women's tag team champion over in WWE with Bianca Belair, so she's doing great things, to be honest with you. And, Penta and Phoenix leaving, I mean, it's not... The fact of the matter is Cody Rhodes leaving the AEW was a domino effect for many talent that's with AEW to possibly venture over to WWE, and Hunter and WWE are, scouting the talent that AEW has. I mean, I'm sure when their contracts are up for certain talent, WWE and Paul Levesque are going to do whatever they can to bring in those said talents. I mean, if you look at, Ricky Starks, Ricky Starks is not getting any TV time. You look at Wardlow. I'm sure when their contracts are up, I'm sure Paul Levesque is looking into someone like Ricky Starks or Wardlow. So it's definitely going to happen. And it's the same thing with WWE. There's going to be certain talents within WWE that feel as if they've done enough in WWE and they're going to go over to AEW. It's definitely a possibility. And I think it's best for both companies, to be honest with you. But again, man, sky's the limit for Rey Fenix and Penta. But it does seem to believe that Phoenix and Penta are leaving AEW, and they will eventually be on the main roster for WWE here relatively soon. The other news that I want to get into that kind of broke this morning was Miro. Miro has been off the scene from AEW for quite a while. We have not seen Miro in action or on AEW television for quite a while. The only run that he had, a decent run with the TNT Championship, if you want to call it that. But as far as Miro's body of work in AEW, man, it's really at a stalemate. And it seems like it's gotten to a point now where Miro's had enough with AEW and Tony Khan, especially creatively. And it seems like Miro has asked AEW and Tony Khan specifically for his release out of his contract with AEW. This is a big deal. This is one of those things where, again, Tony Khan and AEW kind of dropped the ball with certain talents, man, because creatively they have no ideas what to do with either of these men and women on this roster. And it's crippling the company. Miro could be a big deal for AEW. A huge deal. And he could have had a lot of marquee matches in AEW, and it just was not there. Was not there at all. And he has asked for his release, and from the people that I talked to, it looks like it's a possibility that Miro or Rusev might return to WWE. This is a big deal. This is one of those things, like I mentioned earlier, man, where you're going to have talent that's going to be leaving AEW that were former WWE talents and going back. And there's probably going to be a lot more talent that's going to be following suit. I mean, there's been people from WWE that's kind of hinted around, like Xavier Woods, saying that he might reunite with some old friends back in WWE again. So, I mean, again, obviously there's a friendship there between Xavier Woods and Rusev, just from their times in Up, Down, Down. So, I mean, obviously, I think at this time that, Tony Khan, the best bet is probably to release Miro at this point. I don't think they have any plans creatively for Miro. I think they had that little stint with Miro when CJ Perry came in, and they were doing that angle with CJ Perry and Rusev, and it worked for a little bit, but it came into a stalemate. And again, this is going to be something where a lot of talent that are on AEW are going to be contemplating going over to WWE. It's going to happen. Is it unfortunate? Yeah. But at the same time, I'm not going to sit here and be one of those fans of pro wrestling and say, oh, well, AEW is completely trash. No, because at the end of the day, if you look at a situation like CM Punk, you look at it, CM Punk's first stint in WWE ended very badly. Very badly. And he took a hiatus from WWE for almost 10 years. Or about 10 years. And then, Tony Khan created AEW, and they brought in Phil Brooks, got the spotlight on Phil Brooks. Eventually, he had a falling out with Tony Khan and some of the employees with AEW and talent. And eventually, he went over to WWE, and now he's having a hell of a career for himself over in WWE. And that's all thanks to Tony Khan. But, again, I mean, like I said, you got to give credit where credit's due, man. If you look at someone like Jade or Cody, AEW kind of brought the best out of these people, and WWE saw that in them, and they brought them back over to brought them back over to WWE. You know what I mean? And it's going to continue to keep happening. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, right now WWE is bringing in a lot of free agents, a lot. You look at Motor City Machine Guns with Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin; they're coming over to NXT here relatively soon. If I had to guess, the Motor City Machine Guns will be on the debut episode of the when NXT goes over to the CW network here in a couple weeks. Or a few weeks, and I'm looking forward to that as well. I know they signed Stephanie Vacure, who had a match with Mercedes Moné, and WWE came in and swooped in and signed her to a WWE contract, and she's going to be on NXT. I think Delta is another female talent that's coming over to NXT. They just signed Julia, which is one of the biggest female free agents out there in professional wrestling. She's currently signed with NXT. She's got a huge, high marquee matchup with Roxanne Perez for the NXT Women's Championship, and it looks like Julia is going to be running that women's division for quite a while. So, I mean, they're bringing in talent, bro. I mean, this is something where, Tony Khan is going up against a guy who knows exactly what the fuck he's doing with Paul Levesque. And I mentioned this multiple times, just with, his tenure that he had with NXT, man. I mean, he brought in independent talent from all over the world when NXT was NXT Black and Gold, and I still, to this day, and I will say it to the end of time, we, as wrestling fans, were absolutely spoiled with NXT Black and Gold because it was fantastic. From the commentary with Mauro Ranallo to the takeovers, to the video packages, to the stories. I mean, they were absolutely fantastic. And Paul Levesque knows what he's doing. You know what I mean? He's going to bring in the top talent around the world over to WWE. And right now, they can do it. Penta and Phoenix probably saw this opportunity as like, this is game-changing, life-changing opportunity. And they said, we're going to go over to WWE and throw our hat in the ring and see what happens, and God bless them for it. I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, well, now they're over at WWE, I'm going to hate the Lucha Bros. No. And neither should you, man. I mean, you got to look at the body of work that these men and women have put in to professional wrestling. It's the same thing with Jade. It's the same thing with CM Punk. It's the same thing with Cody. There was a lot of people that hated on Cody because he went over to WWE. I'm still a fan of Cody Rhodes, man. Cody's great. Now, I'm sure Tony Khan, it's a hard pill to swallow every Friday night when you see Cody come out with that belt. Yeah, I'm sure it is. It's a harsh reality for Tony Khan because you let this guy go. This guy wanted a contract. He wanted to be more part of the company. And I don't think Tony Khan was willing to budge on that. And unfortunately, because of that situation, Cody Rhodes went over to WWE. Now, obviously, he had a motive to go to WWE. He wanted to be WWE World Champion. And I get it. He's doing a fantastic job. I mean, for what it's worth, if you want to put a company on someone's back, there's no better person right now than Cody Rhodes. Cody Rhodes is the epitome of a world champion. He's doing a great job carrying that world title and putting WWE and SmackDown on his back. And he's doing a fantastic job by doing so. He is a company man. And he's doing a fantastic job with that belt. So, I mean, it's... At the end of the day, you're really splitting hairs, man. I mean, and there's some AEW talent that might go over to WWE that might not fit. You look at someone like Ricky Starks, man, where some people are like, oh, he should just go to the main roster. To be honest with you, Ricky, if he does go over to WWE, he needs to go into NXT's developmental and be a mouthpiece over there, and they're going to put the NXT World Heavyweight Championship on him probably in the first 3 to 4 months. Tops, to be honest with you, because Ricky's a star, man, but Ricky is sitting on the shelf. It's the same thing with Wardlow. I wouldn't put Wardlow on the main roster if he goes over to WWE. I would put him over in NXT. Let him know the WWE engine by going over to NXT, be there for 6 months to a year, build up on his promos, build up on his pro wrestling, become world champion, and eventually, when things work out, hopefully, he goes to the main roster. You know what I mean? It's one of those things where, WWE is gunning, they're going against Tony Khan. And Tony Khan needs to pay attention to this shit. to be honest with you, because at the end of the day, he's going to be losing more talent because there's no creative direction for this talent. And it's becoming a problem. I mean, you look at the Miro situation. He's leaving because of no creative. You look at Ricky Starks, and he wants to leave too because of no creative. Where's Wardlow? No creative. You know what I mean? There's a lot of talent that are just sitting on the sideline waiting to figure out what the hell's going on. And a lot of these men and women just want to go over and wrestle. And that's probably why Miro's leaving. That's why Penta and Phoenix are leaving, going over to WWE. It just makes sense logically, man. I mean, these men and women want to work. They don't want to sit at home not doing shit. You know, in WWE and Paul Levesque can get them an opportunity on a bigger stage and a bigger platform to get their name out there and to have, you know, high quality matches. You know, and this is the same, and this is one of the biggest downfalls with AEW. You know, Paul Levesque, like I said, is not stupid. You know, he's going to give the fans the dream matches, but he's going to let that shit marinate and let that build and build and build and build until finally we get that dream match. And we have all this build, 6-month build until this high marquee matchup. I mean, you can look at the Cody Rhodes situation with the Bloodline. That shit's been going on for 3 years, man. Since he's been with WWE, practically. And that storyline with the Bloodline is still red hot. Red hot. And Cody Rhodes is a part of that. Absolutely. You know, AEW just doesn't have storylines or anything that people and the wrestlers can actually get invested in. To be honest. It's lacking storyline. You know what I mean? And that's just really what AEW's biggest issue is. And because of that, it also hurts and hinders the talent that's on AEW. And I feel like with Tony Khan and AEW, they're just complacent with what the hell they're doing. Which is a huge problem. Because if this continues to keep happening, they're going to lose more fans. They're going to lose more fans. They're going to lose more people coming to shows. And the ratings are going to be even worse than what they are now. And to be honest with you, I mean, my prediction, if shit keeps going the way is going with AEW at this point, NXT might take over AEW. And what I mean by that is as far as the ratings and talent, to be honest. Because at this point, man, NXT is trying to pull out all the stops right now to get them back to what they used to be the best way they can. I mean, they're never going to be the black and gold brand, but they're trying to do whatever they can to bring in popular talent, bring it into NXT, going live again, going to do like live shows. They're going to a new network. They got CM Punk and Randy Orton are part of this new CW network deal. They will be live for NXT. This is a big, big deal. Not only that, NXT is also working with TNA Impact, which so far has been a very successful partnership between both NXT and TNA. And it's worked out in both parties' favors. You know what I mean? AEW is stifling themselves big time. And to be honest with you, like I said earlier, man, this is not going to be the last time that we're going to hear of a certain talent from AEW that's probably going to go over to WWE, to be honest with you. I think a lot of shit's going to happen by the end of the year, going into the new year, to be honest. Because right now, AEW is just, they need to figure their shit out, man. We all saw the Dynamite that happened this past week, yesterday, literally, or Wednesday, and it was abysmal. It was absolutely a dog shit show. And I had my opinions on it, and I stand behind those opinions. The show was awful. There's no storyline. There's nothing being really set in motion. They got one of their biggest televised events coming up with Grand Slam, and there's absolutely no build toward this show. Where last year they had 11,000 tickets sold, where this year, from what I understand, is anywhere from 6 to 6,500 tickets sold for Grand Slam in New York. That's pretty bad. That is pretty bad. And just with the storylines that they have, or the creative that they have right now, it's just not working out. It's just not. You know, AEW's in deep shit, man. I know people are like, oh, that's bullshit. They just signed their TV deal. I still believe that Tony Khan's going to be in the hot seat, to be honest with you. Not only with the network, but with his actual talent. And there could possibly, who knows, man, there possibly could be a mass exodus of talent that are going to be leaving AEW because they're not happy. And there's going to be a lot more people that are going to be speaking up here that are going to be pissed off with the creative direction of where their character or where AEW is going for the next 4 years. So, again, there's going to be a lot more talent from AEW that might possibly entertain the idea, if it's available, to go over to WWE and wrestle under Paul Levesque in WWE. It's definitely a possibility. So, like I said, this is probably not the last time that we're going to hear about AEW talent possibly going over to WWE. But like I said, man, I wanted to do this quick little news break for you guys, kind of get you guys up to par on what's going on if you guys haven't heard what was going on. And like I said, pretty much the news that I got from last night and this morning is that the Lucha Bros are on their way over to WWE. Both Penta and Phoenix are on their way over to WWE, and they are leaving AEW. And Miro, as of this morning, has asked for his AEW contract release. So again, if I find out anything else more about this or anything more telling about this, I will definitely let you guys know about really what the hell is going on here with the Miro situation, as well as Penta and Rey Fenix. But with that being said, this is my news and rumors for both WWE and AEW. I hope you guys are out there staying safe. Be careful, and remember, stay classy.